Well, everyone, it's Shane Kanto, your Wasteland reviewer, and welcome to the Wasteland, my weekly show where I take a deep dive into a particular film. And soon, this Scorsese train will be over, but not yet. And we're here to talk about 1995's Casino. But to join me this week, we have Frank from Twitter and Sif Pop.
Hello.
Frank,
Hello.
thanks for coming.
Anytime that I'm 2 hours late.
That's okay. They wouldn't have even noticed. So Frank, I always like to give my guest an opportunity to shamelessly plug anything they'd like to shamelessly plug. So where can people find you?
You can find me out on Twitter at FrankChem3. I got nothing going on in my life.
So check out Twitter. Because, I think a lot of people spend too much time on it, including myself. Between the Don't Look Up and Matrix discourse, the past month, I almost stopped going on Twitter because I'm like, I can't take this anymore.
I just don't talk about movies.
There you go. You come on to YouTube channels instead. So there we go.
Yep, because I can't see the comments.
Yep. And
Matrix 4 sucked. What? I can't read.
What?
No comments.
So for those who haven't tuned in to Welcome to the Wasteland before, we have three segments. We have our coming attractions, our main feature, and some recommendations. So this week, this show is coming out January 14th. And to be honest, there's some smaller films coming out. But, I think most people are just focusing on Scream. So, Frank, why are you most excited about the new Scream film?
Because I want to know who the killer is, despite what I may say on Letterboxd.
There you go. Oh, isn't that always
apparently
the point?
People don't take it kind when you put a review on a Letterboxd a week and a half early, claiming you know who the killer is, who it's impossible for him to be the killer. But yeah, I got flagged on Letterboxd for doing a review with spoilers in it. Who knew?
Oh no. So, you know what? It's Scream. So it's like, we want to know who's behind the mask, right? I know I've seen, and also my most anticipated this week is Scream because, something has to get people to the movies that isn't Spider-Man, right? And I guess Sing 2. People are going to see that. But
what movie?
Huh?
What movie?
Sing 2.
People going to that?
Apparently, it's made over $100 million domestically and almost 200 worldwide.
Okay, you know what? I take back for all the heat I've been giving Spider-Man for spreading COVID. To me, in my head, Omicron was all Spider-Man. But Sing 2, that ain't worth
it. There's a lot of people going to movie theaters to go see Spider-Man. So there you go. It's an interesting time. And if your name's not Spider-Man, you're not getting a whole lot of people into the theater, but maybe Scream will. It looks like it's tracking for $30 to $40 million opening weekend, which honestly, for a horror film, it's pretty damn good.
That's great.
Yeah, because, most of them cost like $5. So I imagine this one costs a little bit more than $5, but, it's a fifth Scream film. I do have to admit, I've only seen the first two. So I haven't seen the third or the fourth one, but we're going in anyway. I am the man that went into Fate of the Furious with only having seen Too Fast, Too Furious, and Tokyo Drift. I'm like, you know what? The Fast and Furious.
Oh, it's been good being on.
Complicated. And I'm like, and then I sat through and I'm like, who the hell are half of these people? So I don't know if Scream's going to be that complicated, but we're going to find out. But I'm excited for it. I've heard some good buzz about it, at least some early reactions to it. So we'll see. Hopefully it delivers. And it's not just...
People hate my early reaction.
There you go. Hopefully it's just not a bunch of January trash. because F you, it's January. And that's what it's like when movies come out in January. But hopefully all of you will be checking out Scream when it comes around. And I know Paramount's one of the ones that do like the whole might be out 17 days later on VOD. So, you could avoid going to the theater and still go see it like in a little over 2 weeks. But that's a coming attraction for this week. Time for our feature film, Casino by Martin Scorsese.
Yay.
So I always like to ask my guests to start off. So Frank, what interested you in coming on to talk specifically about Casino?
I had never seen the movie before,
Okay.
so it's a reason to cross it off my list. And funny enough, my day job involves casino work.
Okay.
So I thought, okay, I'll see what I can bring to the table.
Is there an Ace Rothstein type at your job?
No. No, there's not.
Frank's the one in the back room with the hammer and the rotary saw, like ready.
I wish, like, we need that kind of thing. But no, people want laws and accountability, and it's too much red tape.
I don't know. It seemed like it worked for Ace for most of the movie, but so
Most of it, yeah.
Yeah, most of it until his marriage life got in the way of things, and also Joe Pesci, Nikki, a little hothead. But so Frank, 3 hours of your life later, what are some of your general thoughts on Casino?
My thoughts were, thank God I love The Departed, and that I hadn't seen pretty much most of Martin's movies before The Departed.
Mm-hmm.
Because my God, it's a lot of The Departed in here. It's just 3 hours of people. Then in the end, spoiler alert, a lot of people like just die.
Pretty brutally.
Dwindles down to one guy, and I had I watched the movie when it came out and was old enough, I probably would have enjoyed it a lot more than I did. But seeing all the Martin Scorsese troops from better movies, and then this one, it plays too long. It's 3 hours. Like, Martin needs to learn to edit.
Can you imagine? There's probably a 5-hour cut of this.
I know. I really feel like this is one where he went, all right, got this first cut done. All right, send it out. It's good.
Hey, it has gangsters, it has casinos, it has drugs. Who doesn't want all this for 3 hours?
I guess. I mean, I'm just from a different time now when everything has to be giant action beats every 10 to 15 pages. Like, I'll admit, modern cinema has probably ruined me from enjoying like, is this considered a classic? It just felt like a overrated Godfather knockoff wannabe.
Well, it's 27 years old, I guess, which is crazy to think about at this point. Yeah. I could definitely see, which I'm going to throw a hot take out here, because I know a lot of people could definitely see Casino as being derivative of some of his other like crime thrillers and mob movies. I know, at least upon first viewing of this and Goodfellas, I always enjoyed this more than Goodfellas. And obviously, like, rewatching all these again, I have a lot more appreciation for Goodfellas. But I think what sticks out about this film to me is, one, I feel like on some level, Ace is more empathetic than Henry is. Because, like, every time I watch Goodfellas, I'm just like, I don't give a shit about Henry Hill. Just an asshole to me. But I feel like on some level, Ace has some kind of honor code about him. And there's also something interesting about the kind of person that he is to me. Because on some level, there's a little bit of me in him. I'm the kind of person that's always like, things got to be on time as planned. A lot of that kind of control kind of thing. Because really, that's like, because that's a lot of this film, right? Is him establishing control and losing control and trying to deal with the fact that he's lost control of things. Because it's all about trust with his wife. He's like, if I can trust you, then we're good. And it's just like, he really can't trust her. She proves that many, 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 many times over the course of the 3-hour movie. And can't really trust his best friend, Nikki, either. Because he's, spoiler alert, starts sleeping with his wife. And that always gets messy, right? And him having the casino taken away from him, which I think is the biggest thing, because like that really is who Ace is. He's that guy. He's attached to that role, and everything comes down to it for him. And seeing that being taken away from him, I think is a really interesting story. Like, obviously, this does play off like greatest hits of Scorsese in many ways. Heck, they even have Gimme Shelter in it. Which that was always a running joke for me watching Scorsese films for the first time. I'm like, so when are they going to play Gimme Shelter? Because it's in The Departed, it's in this, it's in Goodfellas, right? I'm pretty sure at some point. But I think, like, I really enjoy Casino a lot. But yeah, it feels like, okay, Scorsese doing a gangster movie. Just in a casino this time in Vegas. But I guess, what are some of the things in the film that really stick out to you, Frank, that you enjoy?
Like one thing that stuck out a lot with me that I enjoyed with Ace is like you can come to respect Ace. He's very much a two-way street kind of guy, because like, you know, he'll treat anyone the way he wants to be treated. But then when it comes down to like him getting his gaming license, like, you know, he's fully prepared to defend it. Then they just brush him off, and he just lets everything out, like everything that he did for them. But now it's his turn. They're just completely shutting him down, and like he just rolls over and just goes after him in a way to where like this is all stuff he did. He didn't have to do it, but now they won't even give him the time of day.
Mm-hmm.
And now, like I said, like I have a casino background, and the one thing that stuck out with me a lot about this movie that I hated was the whole gaming license thing.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, I know the movie take place way back when I'm sure the laws were different, but I find it hard to believe that any casino lets you operate without a gaming license, and like no casino lets you just step on the floor working as long as, oh, you're in process. No, you get that stuff dealt with very early on.
These
But
were
then
the
I kind
days
of forget the
before
movie.
laws, Frank.
But if you're gonna do that, then you just wouldn't even bring up the idea of a gaming license. But then like a lot of that does get brushed away near the end of the movie, because they go over how Vegas has completely changed. But with his character, like for a gangster, he was pretty just straightforward.
Mm-hmm.
Like it doesn't even feel like he was operating for any sort of mob. Yeah, there was the skimming going on, which that's a whole other story. But like,
Yeah.
as far as you can tell, he ran that casino like 100% on the up and up. Okay, maybe you shouldn't take people out back and beat them, but I joke that they need to bring that back.
They had it coming, right, Frank?
Yeah, he was cheating.
So I think you bring up a very interesting point, because I think one of the most important conflicts of the film is that Ace does operate within the confines of this crime story, but he's operating on his own level. And he doesn't play nice within the criminal aspects of things. He's basically like, he has this job, This is my job. This is my responsibility. I'm going to take care of this. And that's what matters to him. And I think this is a thought that popped in my head. Might be an odd comparison, but like a lot of things, it's like, all this crime and stuff like that feels very Game of Thronesy. Of like, you have to play the game to be able to get by. And I feel like Ace is too honorable and too to like, I have a duty to play the game. And that's what gets him in trouble. Because he's thinking about what's best for the operations. This dumbass guy who keeps messing up needs to be fired. But he doesn't understand you got to grace the hands a little bit of the people that are above you. But he's outside of that thought process of like, no, doesn't matter if you're supposed to be helping us out. He's harming the casino. And that's what my duty is, the casino. Instead of thinking my duty is to keep the family happy and keeping the con going. And that's what gets him in trouble, because then that higher up guy screws him over at the hearing, and then he just goes full blown targeting everybody. That's one of my favorite scenes, because like it could have easily been like De Niro in Untouchables, Al Capone, like, you're just a bunch of talking a badge, and him just like yelling and just completely freaking out. But when he gets in that one guy's face and he's like, at least give me this, there's something like about his word, and like, you're lying, you're not giving me a fair shake here. That's something interesting. And I think that's why Ace stuck out to me as a character. And then, he has all the flamboyant, like obnoxious suits that he wears and all of that. Like, he's a full-fledged character. And then you have the opposite, which is Nikki, which is Joe Pesci's character, who more or less is Tommy from Goodfellas.
You motherfucker, yo.
Did you put your feet on that?
I'm going to start
table?
quoting him at work.
It just starts beating the guy. And he works as like the fiery. And it's interesting because both of them piss off the mob, because Ace doesn't want to play the game because he's all about doing his job. And Nikki goes off the rails and is a liability to the mob. And Kansas City's all just sitting there like, what are these two guys doing?
Hey, Nikki, he gotta go. Like,
oh, and he went.
Yeah, but he should have went a lot sooner.
Yeah, that whole cornfield scene was brutal.
Oh,
them beating him and his brother to death with aluminum baseball bats. That's intense.
Now, one thing I hate about the movie was by the end of it, we had, 3 or 4 narrators going on?
Yeah, well, and yeah, because like you have Ace, you have Nikki, you have his wife, and then even the white-haired guy at one point starts narrating, and I'm just like, wait a minute, why are you talking to us?
Like, I was getting really annoyed at all the random narration, but I feel like they only did that to justify Joe Pesci narrating until he got hit with the bat. And I laughed pretty hard at that. Like,
oh, that was a great moment, because he's mid talking narration, like whack.
Yeah, what is this guy like? We're out here at what? And like, I love that moment, and that made up for all the random narrators up to that point.
Yeah, because like, there's definitely films that really rely on narration, and generally I think Scorsese's able to find, like, I feel like Taxi Driver is one of like his big early ones, and I think what makes that work so well is because we're getting inside the mind of somebody who's pretty disturbed, and for us to hear his perspective on things adds layers to the story. And I guess the same idea goes with Goodfellas. It's like, basically, let's dump as much exposition as possible a lot of the time. And, who doesn't want to listen to Robert De Niro talk to us about the casino and gambling and all kinds of stuff? But yeah, I get that. There's a lot of narration in this movie for like a 3-hour movie, like 3/4 of its narration.
Yeah, like for the most part, like De Niro's narration, I understood, especially like when it came down to the casino work. That's just not a lot of stuff you can really like. A lot of information you do need to get out there for it seems to
Yep.
make sense, especially like when he's like checking how the card counter, not even card counter, but the card sheet was working. Like,
Mm-hmm.
so his narration to me made the most sense. No one else really need narration, but he really wanted that Joe Pesci joke to just land. And
And it landed along with that bag.
yeah.
What are your thoughts on Sharon Stone in this film? Because she was the main one who actually got like awards consideration for her performance in this.
Like Sharon Stone was very much at her most Sharon Stonist in it. Like, I don't know why, but like I felt like she needed to dial it back a little bit, especially like the after the restaurant scene, she's kind of like just laying on the ground when she's getting thrown out. And I'm going, what is wrong with her? And
Going off the rails.
yeah, like I don't know, I can see why they would give her like awards consideration for it. Like it, she does a lot of screaming, a lot of stuff that just doesn't make sense with like her like I don't know why the character just kept going back to her ex.
The
Like,
she I feel like she had some kind of like needed like an older man in her life kind of complex, because it's like she keeps going back to sleazy James Woods over here, and then she's all up in De Niro's business, and then she's all up in Joe Pesci's business, and I'm like pretty sure all of them are like a good 15-20 years older than Sharon Stone.
yeah, I don't know, like something about the dynamics with her character just didn't feel like she felt like she was more of a prop than a character. And it's
I feel like
like,
that's
okay, this is his wife, but then they just keep throwing in all the stereo. Like, I keep wanting to say they start throwing in like all the stereotypical stuff we see in movies. Like, oh, they're happy now. She wants to get divorced, but I got to keep reminding myself the movie is 27 years old. So I'm sure some of these things are tropes that this movie kind of helped maybe start or
well,
continue.
and I feel like we've like, especially after having watched every single Scorsese movie in a row every week, um, you see this kind of dysfunctional marriage in a lot of Scorsese films. Because, like, how many actual functioning relationships are in Scorsese films? Very few. And this definitely isn't one of them. I think, actually, for me personally, one of my biggest things with their whole marriage is I don't get De Niro wanting to be involved in this relationship a lot of the time. Like, she gives him no reason to trust her. And yet he's
Nah.
so like, I need to be able to trust you, and just taking it. And it's just like, where in this woman's actions, anything says, you know what? I could trust her with like $2 million in a lockbox.
Like when it came down to that 2 million, in my head, I was expecting, this is a sign of trust. And then my head I went, all right, she's eventually gonna steal the money. And in my head, I was thinking at some point he's gonna switch the money out with like a pressure sensitive bomb. So when she ever goes to steal it, she just blows herself up.
Nope, didn't go that far.
Maybe I need help if that's where my mind ran on where this thing was going.
Feels like it would have been a Scorsese thing. She does get her just desserts, though, dying tragically in the hallway of a hotel, just strung out on drugs, along with
Ah, the life.
not that happy ending you want to have, right, Frank?
Like, I don't get it. She stole 2 million, and now she's just a junkie in a crappy hotel.
Well, I
Like,
think at
all right, you're
that
giving me a
point too,
3 hour movie. You're giving me a 3 hour movie. Give me like 2 minutes of James Woods stealing the money or something. Like,
that's fair because like that's it because it is an interesting jump from like her getting away with the money to like bam, she's dead,
yeah,
along with like a lot of other people at that juncture of the film. And potentially Ace. Two little things that I wanted to bring up that I appreciated. This is the third consecutive Saul Bass opening credit sequence that like because Scorsese had him come on for Cape Fear because he was a big fan of Hitchcock, and Cape Fear is like an ode to Hitchcock, and Saul Bass did like the Vertigo and all of those opening credit sequences. Then he comes on and does Age of Innocence, and this is his last one, is Casino, and it's a really cool opening uh credit sequence. And then I do appreciate that in the end, along with this being all about Ace and Nikki and this crazy love triangle and all this stuff, it is really about Vegas too. And Ace represents his perspective on what Vegas should be and was. Like, this is a classy, you know, dangerous and sinful kind of place, but like there's something special about it. And that's why it feels like he cares so much about his job, is because he feels like he's part of something special. And at the very end of the film where he's sitting there with those glasses that like any 70-year-old Italian man would wear, I would know my grandfather had them. Um,
I
he
want to
just
rock a pair of those. Like,
is
it
like,
almost felt like it was straight out of Scary Movie. Like, I want to say Scary Movie 4 or 5, when like every time you look back at the detective, her hat gets a little bigger. Like, that's how by the end of the movie I felt with those glasses, because it's
like, how
like
bad are your eyes? But and like him talking about like going to Vegas now and going to the casinos, like going to the airport and like all of that. And like I appreciated that there was this underlying perspective on like what Vegas was and what Vegas became. And it all kind of went along with the rise and fall of Ace. Cause like he kind of represented that. And I appreciated that added layer to the film that Scorsese was going for, because I feel like that was one of the pieces that makes this stand out compared to some of his other gangster movies and crime thrillers, is like this wasn't just about this very specific story, but also the grander perspective on like this is a city that is so iconic. And and this is another interesting comparison. I had recently watched a documentary called On Broadway, and it was about Broadway and like the rise of Broadway and like what Broadway is now, which the vast majority of Broadway is those big popular musicals of like Phantom and stuff like that. And there's a whole bunch of people at the end of the film being like, and this was the most hilarious thing too, is one of the guys straight up said, these all are like amusement park rides. And I'm like, this guy Martin Scorsese? And it's interesting because it does, in context of today, have that parallel of like, that's how Ace saw the Tangiers and saw Vegas was something special and like cinema. And now it's just like you go on the like moving walkways and crap like that at the airport, and like that's basically what it's like now. And it's interesting because I'm like, was this Scorsese starting to show like this is his perspective on film and where it's going, and like heavily feels that way now. But I thought that was interesting, like that little commentary at the end, and how that landed to me in 2022 versus maybe when it was came out in 1995.
Yeah, like especially like the shot where it's like, like it's like the airport and just all like the old people in track suits. That took me back to just a couple of years ago, pre-COVID, working at a casino. We would like we were bus in like old folks from like 3 or 4 states away. And like we would always be packed because we would rely heavily on these buses from
Yep.
other cities. Now post COVID, still no buses. The only people at the casino are usually now. It feels like maybe Ace would love casinos today because it's all like the addicted gamblers and all the more or less savory people trying to make some money.
So, coming from New Jersey, Atlantic
Hey, I keep
City.
forgetting New Jersey.
So, Atlantic City. And I grew up in the same household. Like, I grew up in my grandparents' house from when I was like 2 until I was close to 21 years old. And every summer, we had at least one day where my grandparents drove us down to AC and they went to the showboat. My grandpa would only play $20. And when that $20 was gone, he was done. And we used to go to the sports bar and grill down there. They used to have popcorn on the tables instead of bread. And I loved it. And then I remember the last time I went to the showboat, I was so upset because they replaced the sports bar and grill with the House of Blues. And I'm like, but where's my popcorn? And like, obviously House of Blues is a very different kind of situation. Like I went to the same summer, I saw Ted Nugent at the showboat and then Leonard Skinner at the Borgata. And I think that was like one of my last few like AC experiences. I did go a couple of years ago and stay at where did I stay? Trying to remember. It was for my significant other's birthday. We went to AC, but like I don't gamble. It's funny because I teach statistics and probability at the college level, and it's like there's two kinds of math people. There's the math people that know the odds well enough where they would never play, and the math people who know the odds well enough that they think they can beat it. And that's myself and my coworker Steve. Because Steve does indeed go down and play. So just a little bit of perspective on my experiences with casinos. So basically,
never play slots.
You heard it here. Frank said, don't play slots. Don't waste your time.
Now, like, I'm going to go off on a little bit about casinos a little bit.
Okay.
This isn't specific to one that I work for. So if anyone from my job finds this YouTube video, I'm not talking about my own. I'm talking about everyone.
We're talking about the Tangiers.
Yeah, the Tangiers. Like, have you ever been to a casino where it says like our slots pay out 98%? Like,
not that I've noticed, because I don't think I've ever been up close enough.
Well, like a lot of casinos will advertise the percentage of like, oh, with our slots you win 98% of the time. Now, what's funny is like with a lot of gaming laws, they don't actually define win. So the way slot machines are programmed and how they like fall into a category with the law. Okay, yeah, they win 98% of the time. You put in $1 and you win a penny, that's a win.
Is it though?
You lost 99 cents, but you still won a penny, so it's a win. So people should know that is how win percentages are calculated in casinos.
So there you go. The more you know. You thought you were only going to hear about Scorsese today. Now you're learning math and probability.
But yeah, 98% of the time you will get 0. But 98% of the time you win less than what you just paid to spend, but it's a win.
It is a win. It counts according to the law. Now, Frank, do you have any other last minute thoughts on the movie Casino?
I, you know me, I can watch a long movie. I like, I just binge watched an entire season of Dexter, and it felt shorter than this movie.
Oh my. You know what was
Like,
interesting? Like this time around, I'm trying to think. This might have been my third or fourth time watching Casino. And this honestly brisked by pretty quickly for me personally. But I don't know. I think I appreciate this film more than most people. So to each their own. But you do bring up an interesting point because like I know people it's like I was just having this conversation about somebody who's like, I don't like movies, they're too much of a commitment. But then I'll then watch a whole entire season of a show in one sitting and just like,
but at least with a TV show, just the way they're structured, each episode usually has a 3 arc structure. So you
hmm,
keep getting, you know, the satisfaction every 20 to 40 minutes. But with Casino, it's a 3 hour build up for an ending. And just, I don't know, like I said, I'm sure I would appreciate this movie a lot more had I been old enough to, if I wasn't 10 when it came out. And like, it's kind of weird, like, you know, you look at like the evolution of film over years, like, there are movies where like, yeah, I can appreciate a movie, but if it came out today, I wouldn't watch it.
hmm.
Kind of like how like if you look at the evolution of man, you know, where like the little character, where like you just see him evolve over time, you can appreciate where the human came from, but you're not going to go back to there. You're just going to stay at the end where you know you can stand completely upright.
There you go.
So I can appreciate the movie, but I'll never watch it again.
That's fair. It's also a commitment. Like this was Scorsese's longest film until Wolf of Wall Street. And then of course the Irishman came along and blew both of them out of the water.
Still haven't watched The Irishman. Like,
I saw that in a theater.
oof.
I was at there
Because
for
isn't
all
that one
4 hours.
closer to 4? Dang.
Yeah, it was a 6 o'clock show. I got out of there at 10 o'clock. I'm just like, yeah, I just did that.
What? Why does he feel that the movie isn't a movie until he hits 3 hours? Is that it?
It's interesting because like watching all of his films throughout, like not all of them have been like that. Most of them aren't, honestly. Like I'll be watching Kundun next, all of you lovely people out there. So this is next week's show. And this is 2 hours and 14 minutes. So like
Like I used to think The Departed was a long movie.
Departed flies though.
Oh yeah, like
That has some impeccable pacing in that movie. You know,
but yeah, the other
Scorsese
reason why
just
is
has
like
that energy about his films, honestly.
I think
Obviously,
that's why for me, like a 3 hour movie can fly by quicker when you have more characters trying to reach more goals. That's probably for me. The Departed does fly by because you are following all these different characters. But yeah, Casino just dragged for me, and it looked good in 4K. I'll give it that much.
there you go. It was funny. I watched this on an old DVD. So like it didn't look quite as good as probably when you watched it. But that's our feature of the week, Casino. So let's get to our last segment where we're going to recommend some things for you. So Frank, what would you like to recommend to the lovely people out there?
I'm going to recommend a documentary I saw a long time ago when I was in college. The Aristocrats. Have you ever heard of the documentary?
I have not.
Well,
Is it
yeah, it came
related
out in
at all
2005.
to the Aristocrats and Aristocats?
No,
Okay.
it's a documentary done by a magician Penn and some other guy, Matt Teller. And I'm recommending this one obviously because like there is a nice interview segment with Bob Saget in it, who, as we all know, tragically passed away, in which the entire documentary is about one joke. And the joke is a classic where the punchline is I almost said Aristocrats.
I ruined it.
The Aristocrats is just the punchline. And it interviews a ton of different comedians and they tell their version of the joke.
Interesting.
Because the structure of the joke is a family walks into a talent agent's office to tell them about their act. And then the talent agent asks them, well, what's your act? And then you just go on and improvise the most disturbing and disgusting things you can think of. And then talent agent goes, oh, that's horrible. What do you call yourselves? The Aristocrats. And Bob Saget gives probably the filthiest delivery in that entire movie. And it's worth it just for that.
Wait, Danny Tanner?
Oh, yeah. That man has ruined strawberry shortcake for me.
We're going to pour one out for Bob Saget and for all of the millennials out there who were devastated at hearing about his passing. Because, I watch Full House like on a daily basis. So, big part of growing up.
He was the original YouTuber.
And also to Tourette's guy in Bob Saget. Oh, the internet.
Yeah.
But I added that to my watch list. That definitely piqued my interest, so I appreciate that. At least that recommendation's going straight to my watch list.
All right, I gotta warn you though. I saw this in theaters with my good friend Nick in Philadelphia, and it was playing at the Ritz.
Okay.
And especially in like 2005, it's very much all cinema files, all uppity people. We go in there, we're the youngest people by like 40 to 50 years, just hearing this joke being told over and over again. And we're the only two laughing.
Well, you appreciate it. It was cinema.
And there's a 2-minute segment in which me and my friend, we both knew, like, we could read each other's minds to where we shouldn't laugh at this. And it's a 2-minute segment where a mime is telling the joke on the street. No audio at all. And we're both dying, holding it in. And finally, we can't hold it in any longer. We're just laughing. Everyone else in the theater is dead silent. And yeah, highly recommend the documentary about a joke.
There you go. I'm definitely going to be checking that out. I have a couple here. So generally I throw out a couple different kinds of ones. So like a recent film that I saw that just released was Poupelle of Chimney Town. And this is a new anime. It's a steampunk dystopia where you have this city covered in smoke from all the chimneys. And a young boy befriends a garbage man, aka a man made of garbage, that appears when this strange entity, this stone, falls from the sky and like creates this garbage man. And they basically cause a revolution of the dystopian, futuristic, like this secret society that keeps everybody in check, that you're not allowed to believe that there's stars out there, that there's anything outside of this town. So like it's a pretty, it has emotion, it has action, it has a really cool, interesting representation of like a futuristic dystopia, all steampunk. And I'm like, I got to see it on Sunday at a Regal Cinemas all by myself. Literally the only one in the theater. Because everybody else was seeing Spider-Man.
Again.
So Poupelle of Chimney Town, definitely recommend. I just bought this movie, April and the Extraordinary World. I bought it. It was like $4 on DVD. And it's another anime, also a futuristic kind of thing, steampunk. And this young woman who's from a scientist family. And there's a strange, like, overarching like government society that's oppressing and kidnapping scientists in like the I think it's late 1800s kind era, but it's like all steampunky and stuff like that. There's a lot of steampunk on Sunday when I was watching these, and it's an interesting film and it's a lot of fun. It's a French animated film. So that's April in the Extraordinary World. And the last one is something off my watch list that I checked out, which was Submarine, which is a romantic comedy from writer-director Rick Iotti, who's from like the IT crowd. He's Moss. And
Moss, which one?
The high-pitched voice one with the big hair.
Oh, okay.
Not Chris O'Dowd, who's the one who always like, have you tried turning it on and off?
No, you're talking about the one that was in The Watch.
Yes. Yep.
Yeah.
So he wrote and directed this, and it's this really weird, awkward teenager trying to navigate like his first relationship and also his parents like faltering marriage. And his parents are played by Sally Hawkins and Noah Taylor. And the one dude who his mom may or may not be having an affair with is played by Patty Considine. And he's a magician and he has a mullet. And it's the most amazing thing. The main character's hard to like, but he goes on an interesting journey. And it's really funny and it's darkly funny. And I really enjoyed it. I rented it on Amazon. So there you go. Those are some of my recommendations. So hopefully you enjoy some anime or some raunchy Welsh rom-com for teenagers.
You can add that one to the list.
Submarine. But those are all our recommendations. And that's all we have this week on Welcome to the Wasteland. And I hope all of you tune in next week when I take a dive into Kundun with Rowan, who's coming back, who was just on for the Age of Innocence episode. Just, endless supply of Sif Pop writers that come on to here to talk about movies and have a fun time, and I appreciate it. But Frank, this was a blast. I appreciate you coming on, and shamelessly plug one last time, where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at FrankKemp3. You can also find me down at your local library. Usually surfing the internet, getting kicked out.
And you can probably check him out on Letterboxd before they ban him at this rate.
Okay, that is my new favorite hobby because it's the second time this year I've written a review for a movie I haven't even seen. Like last time I did one for what was the new P.T. Anderson one?
Oh, Licorice Pizza.
Licorice Pizza. Yeah, I wrote a one sentence review and I got hit up with a bunch of comments asking me like, how did I see it already? And I don't reply.
Chaos. Frank.
Yeah, I'm
chaos.
Like, yeah, find me on Letterboxd. Did I actually watch the movie or did I not? Who knows?
You'll find out once you see the movie and find out if Frank's review
is
or not.
Here's a giveaway. Like any movie I review that I haven't seen, I will always give 5 stars to because I don't want my trolling to negatively influence a movie.
Good guy, Frank. So there you go. But Frank, thank you so much. And thank all of you out there for always tuning in and supporting your Wasteland reviewer.